My boyfriend pulled a knife out on one of my friends and I had to step in. I have been dating my boyfriend for about 3 months now, and wanted to introduce him to one of my friend groups that I met in Star Wars Club. He was always on edge when I hung out with them, which I totally understood, because it is mainly a group of guys. So I invited everyone to go bowling as a way to introduce him to them. Everything was awkward at first, as my boyfriend asked them all very personal questions. Plus, as I said, I had met these friends at Star Wars Club, so most of them weren't exactly social people. Later in the night, I went to the bathroom for a minute, only to walk out and see a small crowd had formed around the alley where my group was. It turns out my boyfriend pulled a effing knife out on one of my friends. I rushed over and asked what was going on, and told my boyfriend to put the knife away. He pointed it at one of my friends and said he didn't trust him, and he had said something to insult him so he needed to pay. My friend was not backing down, and was staring my boyfriend off. I didn't want the cops to get called, so I told my boyfriend this should be handled outside. He laughed and said, "Sure, if he doesn't chicken out," and left. All of my friends were looking at me with either hate or horror. I apologized to all of them, and said I didn't even know he owned a knife, let alone carried one on him. I turned to my friend that had been threatened and apologized again, and asked him what happened. He told me that as soon as I left, my boyfriend outright asked all of them if any of them had a thing for me, that if they did, he would have to do something about it. My friend told him he was crazy and needed to calm down, as he didn't own me, and shouldn't go around threatening people. That pissed my boyfriend off, and they ended up arguing until he pulled out the knife. I felt so embarrassed, and was horrified I was the reason my friends almost got hurt. I asked them to please leave out the other exit, and that I'd handle my boyfriend. I told them they would never have to see him again, and I would understand if they completely hated me for the situation I put them in. Most of them were still freaked out about what had happened, so they just left. 2 of my friends stayed behind and said there was no way in hell they were gonna let me go outside alone, with a guy who just pulled a knife on someone, especially in public. Now I thought I could go into a parking lot alone with the guy, and nothing would happen? I tried to convince them it was fine, and would probably be worse if I didn't go outside to talk to him. They relented, but one of them told me that I had better call or text them a secret word or something so they knew I was alive or they'd call the police. I laughed, thinking they were joking, but they just stared at me. I went outside right after and found my boyfriend pacing back and forth. He asked where my friend was, and I told him he left. He called my friend a coward, and I said he was an AH for pulling a stunt like this at all. I went to my car to leave, and he followed me. He told me I wasn't allowed to hang out with those friends anymore. I told him he doesn't own me, and I guess that set him off because he came rushing over, and slammed me against the car. I started panicking, so I just started lying and telling him he was right, and I was wrong, and I just needed to go home to sleep on everything. When he let me go, he told me he just wanted me to be safe. I nodded my head, got into my car, and left. I feel like I should break up with him, but I'm worried about what might happen if I do. My boyfriend pulled a knife out on